Hello, everyone. Let's have more news about the Steelers. But first, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. We are officially in the NFL dead period as teams are off on summer vacation until they return in late July for the start of training camp for the 2025 NFL season. The Cleveland Browns will have their rookies report to Berea for training camp on July 18th, with the veterans reporting on July 22nd. With it being 2025, articles have been popping up on other websites focusing on the all quarter century team for their respective teams, and I decided to take a crack at doing it for the Browns. For this exercise, the positional breakdown involves one player for the following positions: quarterback, running back, the 5 offensive line positions, kicker, punter, long snapper, and returner. Two players at the following positions: tight end, safety, defensive end, and defensive tackle. And finally, 3 players for wide receiver, corner, and linebacker. Without further ado, here is the Cleveland Browns all quarter century team. This was one of the easier parts of the roster to figure out. Baker Mayfield has been the only quarterback since the return in 1999 who has provided real hope for the position with results on the field. I was at his debut game when he came in on Thursday night against the Jets, and I'll never forget the electricity and atmosphere in the air that night. It was a bit of a roller coaster overall with Mayfield, but there were a lot of great moments with him under center in Cleveland. Earlier this month, when Nick Chubb's time with the Cleveland Browns came to an end, I posted a tribute to him with his top 5 moments as a Brown, which you can read here if you missed it. Injuries might have robbed him of a Hall of Fame career, but he's the best running back I have ever watched in person and one of the best to ever suit up in the brown and orange. Now let's go to another video. Don't forget to leave a like.
Edwards says, would Jalen Ramsey make the Steelers defense the best in the league? You can make an argument it's already the best in the league, in my opinion. Okay, Beanie Bishop Jr., though, the nickelback, is probably the weak link, even though he had some big-time plays last year, some interceptions, a lot of interceptions, actually, for someone with limited playing time. Intercepted Aaron Rodgers twice in the Jets game last year. I'm appreciative of Beanie, and he's had a good offseason program, according to the reports on the ground. But Jalen Ramsey is like bona fide one of the best nickel defenders in the game today. And, he's an instant upgrade in your base defense with just 2 corners on the field versus Darius Slay. So I absolutely think that with Jalen Ramsey, this is the best defense in the league. I think they already have the best pass rush in the league. The secondary, I think, has improved this year, but it's definitely the weak spot in the Steelers' defense. Adding Jalen Ramsey, I think, gets them over the top, where they officially have no holes if there's no injuries in this defense. Then we got Milton Sanchez. Says, do you think Mike Hilton makes a return to Pittsburgh? I think that if Jalen Ramsey goes elsewhere, there is a chance, because Hilton played his best football of his entire career here in Pittsburgh, all right? He was essentially like an edge rusher here in Pittsburgh, and it's kind of weird the way that they used him, because they played him in the slot, but they would blitz him so often that he was essentially an edge player. And they would send somebody else in coverage, one of the outside linebackers, whether that was Dupree or Watt, into coverage, depending on which side Hilton was playing. And, bringing that element of slot cornerback blitzes back into this Blitzburg defense would be absolutely terrific as far as I'm concerned. He's also a good run defender, can set the edge for kind of a smaller guy, but, he's tough as hell. He's tough as nails. He's a Pittsburgh Steeler. He's one of my all-time favorite players because of the unique role that he played here in Pittsburgh, and they tried to make Arthur Maulet kind of like a Mike Hilton-style corner. He just wasn't the same, man. Just wasn't the same. So even though Mike is a little bit older now, he had a pretty good season for Cincinnati last year. I'm shocked he has not signed to a new team at this point. So I would welcome Mike Hilton back with open arms. So what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comments section. Should the Pittsburgh Steelers bring back Mike Hilton? Give me a yes or no down there in the comments section for today's pinned question. And YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. And when that happens, take advantage of that time by letting me know if you would be supportive of a reunion between the Pittsburgh Steelers and Mike Hilton. Got one from my man Kevin Reed here. Says, do you think if the Steelers roll with Will Howard in 2026, all the beat writers will lose their effing minds? If they do draft a quarterback, I say draft Aller and let him and Howard duke it out. Here's the thing. Here's the thing, Kevin. If you're drafting Drew Aller and you're investing a first-round pick in him, he's going to be the franchise quarterback. All right, there's not going to be a competition between a 6th-round pick who you don't really owe anything to and a first-round pick who you're spending a top draft asset on, and you're probably trading up for him if you're getting Drew Aller, by the way. So if that's the situation, Will is going to be Drew's backup. Like, that's going to be the plan for Will Howard. But what I will say here, guys, is that if the Steelers roll with Will Howard, they better be right on it, because this is a really good quarterback class coming up in 2026. So if they're going to, say no to these quarterbacks that are coming in next spring, for Will Howard, they better be fucking sure that Will Howard is going to be, that next franchise guy. If not, they're going to be very, very disappointed with themselves, and we'll see how he ends up developing this year. We got one from Eugene. My man says, what quarterback should Pittsburgh draft in 2026? Obviously, it depends how these guys play this next year and, what the Steelers are looking for and all that. I would say two guys that I would keep my eye on are Lenora Sellers from South Carolina. He's very Justin Fields-esque in terms of his physical skill set. Big, strong, elite, dynamic athlete with a huge arm. He could win the Heisman Trophy this year, and it's very possible he's the number 1 overall pick. No chance the Steelers can get to him. But if he doesn't have a stellar season, there's a chance that he could be kind of like a developmental type of first-round quarterback prospect, similar to the way Anthony Richardson was when he was coming out of Florida, because his physical upside is huge. So keep your eye out for Lenora Sellers. And then also Drew Aller out of Penn State. He's used to playing in Pennsylvania conditions, big arm, can definitely play in the AFC North. And I really like the way that he protects the football too. So big arm talent, big body, really dynamic arm talent, and then he's got some ability to protect the football too. So I like Drew Aller quite a bit. Then we got one from JT Clover, says over or under Calvin Austin 900 yards. I think that this question is a good one, JT. I think it really does depend on if they add another wide receiver. Because if they bring in Calvin Austin, or if they bring in Amari Cooper, I should say, to be this team's number 2 receiver, Calvin's just not going to see the ball enough to get 900 yards. Now, if he is this team's bona fide number 2 receiver, I think he absolutely could get to 900, all right? Darnell Mooney got over 100 last year, and I think Austin and Mooney, very similar type of players, okay? Undersized, they play on the outside or in the slot. Really good route runners, solid hands. Like Calvin Austin, Darnell Mooney, very similar players to me. So if he's the true number 2, absolutely he could get to 900. If not, I don't think that he's going to get enough targets to get there. But I still think he'll be a good player. Got one from Brian03. Says, is Muth underrated or viewed properly? Well, I think it depends who you're talking about. I think Muth is probably seen as a good tight end by most people. And I think that's what he is, all right? Like, I don't think he's terrific. I don't think he's like an all-pro caliber guy necessarily, or at least he hasn't been yet. And I don't think, he sucks. And I think where he's really underrated, Brian, is as a blocker. Like, people talk about Pat like he sucks as a blocker. Now, it's like, okay, if you're going to play him in line and you're going to ask him to go up against an edge rusher in a run-blocking scheme one-on-one, yeah, he's going to get his ass kicked. That's not what he's known for, all right? But, like, as the kind of non-inline tight end, a more of a receiving type alignment, he can get to the second level, handle linebackers, handle safeties, handle those smaller type defenders perfectly fine, and then he's a really good possession type tight end. He's not going to, be super dynamic after the catch or anything like that. I don't think he's like a Travis Kelce or George Kittle level guy or Gronk or anything like that, but he's very, very solid, very dependable, great teammate, hard worker, absolutely a Pittsburgh Steeler. I love Pat Freiermuth. So make sure you guys click that thumbs up icon if you haven't already. If you are a real one, helps out the channel, takes half a second of your time, tells the YouTube algorithm to put this video in front of more Steelers fans like yourself. So if you're a real one, you know what to do. Click that thumbs up icon. Greatly appreciate your guys' support. My man Ali coming in with a 5 says, what do you think the record's going to be with Aaron Rodgers this year? Obviously, I think there's a lot of question marks surrounding the Steelers. And obviously, depending on how those questions get answered, it's going to depend on, that's going to be what culminates in the record, right? If the offensive line works out and they take a big step forward, Caleb Johnson has a really good first year. Calvin Austin and Roman Wilson have breakout seasons this year. Like this, the sky's the limit. They could win 13, even 14 games this year, all right? Especially if TJ Watt stays healthy. But I think that a reasonable estimate is somewhere around the 10-11 win mark. All right, that's where they've been. I think that they're better than they have been in years past. Wouldn't surprise me if it's 11-6. Wouldn't surprise me if it's 12-5. If I'm being completely honest with you. So anywhere between 10 and 12 wins, I think, is a reasonable expectation for a team that was worse last year and got the 10 wins. Then we got one to shower curtain here. Love the picture, by the way, man. Says, why is Cordero Patterson still on the roster? What does he bring to the team? He brings veteran experience, I guess, more depth, experience in Arthur Smith's offense in particular. He's been very successful in this offense, and I think that the Steelers might feel like he brings valuable veteran kind of mentorship for Caleb Johnson, who's going to be playing the same role Cordero played in this offense when he was in Atlanta, when he was essentially the number one back for Arthur Smith before they brought in Bijan Robinson. And Cordero is a bigger back that, played on those early downs. He's played a lot in outside zone run schemes. Like, I think they kind of feel like he can be a good mentor for Caleb in training camp. And maybe they still feel like he can bring some special teams, upside. I don't think that, but maybe the Steelers do. Mike Tomlin loves that aspect of his game. He's definitely on the bubble for the roster, and it wouldn't surprise me if he doesn't make the roster. But I think that probably the main thing that they like about him is that he can be a good mentor for Caleb Johnson. Then we got one from Trent Latham. It says, how great do you think Jack Sawyer and Nick Herbig will be as rotational pieces? I think that they'll do their jobs. All right, Jack Sawyer, plays his ass off. Good run defender. He's kind of like a brick wall out there, man. He's tough to move. And then Nick Herbig, obviously, as an undersized edge rusher that comes in pass-heavy situations, one of the best designated pass rushers in all of football. So really love what those two guys do. Jack Sawyer is going to be playing that Preston Smith role where he comes in on early downs from time to time, and then Nick Herbig is going to be that pass-heavy down rotational piece that comes in on later downs from time to time. So really love those two rotational pieces. I think it's the best edge rusher room in football, and you can't convince me otherwise. Then we go on from Ali the Reaper, says, do we go after Dobbs now? I mean, I don't know what the price tag is from Green Bay, or even if they want to trade it. All right, I know for a fact the Steelers called Green Bay, and they inquired about him. And they also inquired about Dontavian Wicks, by the way. But obviously no deal has surfaced yet. So who knows what the Steelers are thinking? And who knows what the Packers are thinking? Maybe the Packers have this delusion that they're going to keep all these wide receivers going in the training camp, and they don't want to trade any of these guys. Maybe they're asking for a third-round pick for one of these guys. We just don't know what's going on, behind closed doors there. But for the right price, I'm absolutely in grabbing Romeo Dobbs. I think he can be a legit number 2 receiver for this team. Milton Sanchez, what's up, Milton? Says, who scores our first TD of the season? Tough to say. I'm going to say they're going to want to get the ball. If they get into the red zone in that first game against the Jets, first time they're in the red zone and the first time they call up a play to try to score a touchdown, they're going to want to have Aaron Rodgers throw a touchdown pass. So I don't know who he throws it to, but I'm going to say Aaron Rodgers passing touchdown, first touchdown of the season for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Hell, let's give it to Darnell Washington, man. Big DW, Mount Washington, big tight end. The Jets defense isn't going to know how to defend that guy. Throws it up, catches it, touchdown DW, touchdown Aaron Rodgers. So take a guess for me down there in the comments section. Who scores the first touchdown of the Steelers season this year? I think Aaron Rodgers will be involved with the play.
He's going to get it out of you. People, I always say people call him a player's coach. And, yeah, obviously he's a player's coach because you see how many guys want to come play with him and how many of these veteran guys that have been around the league that their main reason for coming here is playing for Coach Tomlin. But, a player coach, yes, but he's going to get on your ass. Like, he is going to let you know about every single finer detail. He's going to call you out. It doesn't matter who you are in the team meeting, in the locker room, whatever, on the field, who's there, who's in front, who's listening. You're getting called out if you're not doing your job. You're being held accountable. And if you're not doing your job, then you're not going to be there. And he will hold you accountable. And, people that want to say, oh, he's too friendly with the players. Like, what does that even mean? He's too friendly with I seriously don't even know what that means. He's ruthless. He's literally ruthless. He talks shit. He's ruthless and he thrives off that, and he wants you to thrive off that. And, I feel like him being that kind of motivator is why he's so unbelievable at his job. Like, truly, he's incredible.
So how do I feel about these differing opinions on Tomlin's coaching style? To be honest with you, I could care less. I don't care how you want to categorize Tomlin as a coach. Is he a player's coach, not a player's coach? That ain't the name of the game. That's not the job. It's the approach or the style you could use to get the job done. But the job is to have this team being a contender and winning games. We say it's a results-based business, right? What have the results been recently? Not good enough. So I don't care the style or the approach. I just want to see the results, because I don't get why people make players coach out to be this bad thing. Like, there's pros and cons just like any other approach or style, right? Because there's ton of coaches that are Hall of Famers that you would consider players coaches, right? Pete Carroll, one of those rah-rah motivational guys. Players want to play for him. People would consider him like a player's coach. Sean McVay is a player's coach. He's very lax with his players, relatable to his players, but he's also a scheme genius and offensive guru in the modern era. Jimmy Johnson back in the day, Hall of Fame coach. He was a player's coach. He famously said this:
I'm going to be very consistent. I'm going to treat every one of you differently. I said, how I treat you is according to how you are on this scale. I said, if you work hard, you do everything that we ask, and you're a good player, you're at the top of the scale. If you don't work hard, if you don't do what I ask you to do, and you're not a good player, you're at the bottom of the scale. And I said, that's how I treat you. And so with John Roper, a backup linebacker, one day we're in special teams meeting. I look back there and, John is he's sleeping. And I'm saying, what in the world's going on? We're getting ready to play San Francisco. Big ball game. I said, John, evidently you're not getting enough sleep. And I cut him. And he never played another down of football. That's a shame. Well, somebody asked me, said, well, what if Troy Aikman would have been asleep? I said, simple. I would have walked back there and I'd have said, Troy, wake up. And I'd gone back to my seat.
So it's a style. It's a way to go about being a coach. You could be successful or unsuccessful being a player's coach or not being a player's coach. You could be successful or unsuccessful being a disciplinarian, being ruthless, and not relating to your players as much. It doesn't matter. What are the results? Just like playing quarterback. There's so many different quarterbacks out there. There's so many different styles and ways to play quarterback. Just win, man. Like, that's what it comes down to. Like, for me, what was Tomlin's coaching style early on when he first became the Steelers head coach, those first 4 or 5 seasons? Let's go back to that. Whatever coaching style that was, we were winning games. We were going on Super Bowl runs. We were deep in the playoffs. And if anything, what's funny about this whole players coach discussion is, like, if anything, Tomlin was considered more of a players coach back then because he was younger and probably related to the players better, right? So I don't care about the coaching style, man. I really don't. No matter what, it needs to translate on the field. Because we could talk till we're blue in the face about Tomlin being a player's coach, or he's too ruthless, he's great with his schemes, he has every attention to detail, knows how to get his players prepared, works his ass off, sleeps at the facility. We could talk about all these things about what makes Tomlin great or why he's such a good coach. How's it translating? Like, why are we getting blown out in these playoff games then? Why do we continue to have these letdown games against heavy favorites during the regular season? Now, it hasn't been all bad with Tomlin. I think objectively he is a good coach. He's going to be a Hall of Fame coach. The resume speaks for itself. We have had good moments, and even good moments in recent years. There's something to be said for the relevancy, the consistency, but it's not good enough. So whatever his coaching style is kind of irrelevant to me. And here's the thing, too. I'm sure Tomlin has changed his ways and has picked up on some things and has put other things to the side on how he approaches being a head coach over 18 years. He's been doing this a long time. So his approach has probably shifted over the years. New perspectives, different motivation tactics, different ways to look at the game, different ways to teach the game. He's brought in different players, different coaches under him. What's the results, man? Again, we could talk about all these different factors, this and that, coaching styles. What's the results? For Tomlin, good early on. Like I said, really good early on. With Tomlin as the coach and Big Ben, man, like that combo, I thought we were going to have 4 or 5 Super Bowls at this point. But instead, we don't have a playoff win in the last 8 years. That's the bottom line. Now, great opportunity ahead of us in 2025 to change the narrative. And that's what I was saying going into that wild card game against the Ravens. You know how we ended the season with those 4 straight losses, looking like we went backwards as an offense. Defense was getting shredded, all this stuff. We look bad. Those last 4 games of the 2024 regular season. But I said, we have a playoff game ahead of us. On the road against the Ravens, division rivals. We win this game. I forget about those 4 games. I forget about how the regular season ended. We just won a playoff game, and we're a couple games away from the Super Bowl. You want it in the game that really, really mattered. You got it done when it really, really mattered. Regular season, that's good. We did our job at least to an extent. We got a playoff berth. Now, we would have liked home field advantage, would have liked to have finished the season on a better note, won the division. We didn't. You have a playoff game. Win that game. Okay. Forgot about the regular season. Completely forgot about the regular season. So, Tomlin, the Steelers have that opportunity ahead of us right now. We go 13-4, go on a playoff run. We get to the Super Bowl, win a Super Bowl. I forget about our playoff drought. Forget about that. I'm excited about Tomlin being the head coach for 2026 and beyond and leading us into the future in the new era. So great opportunity ahead of us here to switch the narrative on not being able to get this playoff win. Or I guess to answer the question about whether or not Tomlin can still get the job done as the Steelers head coach. Like that, again, that's what it comes down to. Get the job done. Going back to what I said at the very beginning. Coaching style, approach, I don't care. Just what's the results? That's it. Okay. Another thing Harrison said, and this has to do with the Rodgers-Tomlin dynamic. He has a variance of opinions on how he sees things potentially playing out. And I'm just going to warn you, I feel like this is an extreme hot take. Have a listen, though.
I think they can make it work if they win it. If they start losing and it's looking like they ain't going to make above a 500, I think it gets real ugly real fast. Like, to the point of like they
don't think about what you say.
No, I'm saying to the point of like they may just be like, you know what, let's let this dude go mid-season for Aaron. Like, let's just get him out of here, put one of these other quarterbacks in. You know, Mike T ain't going nowhere.
This one definitely has some personal elements to it. There's definitely some personal things from the past that are leaking into this James Harrison take, because we all know how Harrison's tenure with the Steelers ended. It was definitely not in ceremonial fashion. And if you guys need a refresher, in 2017, we draft TJ Watt. Harrison is still on the roster. And there's definitely a misunderstanding between Harrison and Tomlin about Harrison's role. TJ Watt, in his rookie year, starts to play a lot, and it becomes the TJ Watt show. Harrison's role is diminished. I don't even know if he was getting any snaps. And yeah, there's definitely a misunderstanding. I think Harrison felt like he was misled by Tomlin on what his role was going to be or what the plan was. And at some point, as time went on during that season, Harrison started to act in an unprofessional manner behind the scenes in meetings and throughout the course of the week leading up to Sundays. And ultimately, the Steelers and Harrison had to part ways. It became a toxic environment. And then Harrison ends up signing with the enemy, goes to the Patriots. That was weird. But yeah, so I think there's some personal stuff going on with this take here and how he feels the Rodgers situation is going to play out here with Tomlin. Like, come on, bro. There's no chance in hell Aaron Rodgers is going to get cut, let alone benched. There's no way. Because even if the Steelers start off rockier, things are looking a little bleak early on or midway through the season, like, Tomlin's going to rely on Rodgers to get us out of that. He has too much respect for Rodgers. And I think that, I mean, you've seen it play out in the past with other legend quarterbacks. Big Ben and Russell Wilson. When it was Big Ben and Big Ben's last season, weren't we like 1-4 or something? And there were fake fans, the fake media, a bunch of clowns out there that were calling for Ben to get benched or us to consider putting Mason in. I said, these people don't know football. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. And yeah, Tomlin stuck with Ben throughout the course of that season. Ben proved him right. We go on a run, make the playoffs. Big Ben has all those game-winning drives, puts the team on his back, etc. And he did the same thing with Russell Wilson last year when things were looking a little bit bleak at the end of the season. Still stuck with him. Now you could argue, is that for right or wrong? That's a different debate for a different day. But I think Tomlin has a certain amount of respect
The Pittsburgh Steelers receiving core saw a couple major moves during the offseason. They first traded for DK Metcalf back in March, forming one of the most fascinating pass catching duos at the time with him and George Pickens. But that partnership never made it to the field as the Steelers traded Pickens weeks after the draft, citing some tensions between the two camps as a reason for his departure. Generally speaking, that leaves them in the same place they started once the regular season ended. Pittsburgh has one rock solid number one receiver with questionable pieces surrounding the player. Now facing a one season deadline to maximize their time with Aaron Rodgers, there is some moderate concern this stable of receivers will not be enough. To alleviate those concerns, CBS Sports' Cody Benjamin proposed the Steelers pursuing veteran receiver and former Super Bowl champion Odell Beckham Jr. The Steelers have DK Metcalf as a legitimate number one wideout for Rodgers, but all indications are they're still exploring additional weaponry after dealing George Pickens to the Dallas Cowboys. Beckham may not be the standout he once was, but he's also been on Rodgers' radar for years. The Green Bay Packers reportedly tried to land Beckham to pair with A-Rod during the 2021 season, and Rodgers admitted later that he had interest in Beckham following him to the Jets ahead of the 2022 campaign. On a one-year deal, why not make the dream pairing happen now? Beckham spent last year with the Miami Dolphins, though. His campaign was hampered with injuries. He has teased a comeback this season with uncertain prospects of actually committing to a team. If he's prepared to return, should the Steelers make that pursuit? At a low cost, perhaps it's worth exploration if Rodgers still has some intrigue. But the exact package of what Beckham can offer a team is minimal at this point. And you, fan, what do you think about Odell Beckham Jr.'s situation? Leave your opinion in the comments.